What's up, it's Robert from Existence First, and in this video I'm going to explain why I don't like the word loss. But let's start off with a quick story from when I was maybe 8 years old or so. I was at a summer camp, and one day we went to the water park. So we get on the bus, everybody's got their swimsuits in their bags and everything. We go to the water park, put our towels down, put our stuff down, go swimming, and then at the end of the day we come back to our towels, and when I returned to mine, I could not find my t-shirt. So I probably told a counselor, and I don't even remember what conversations I had that day, but what I do remember is sitting on the bus on the way back to camp and kind of being in tears, probably, just sad, staring out the window and covering myself with a towel because that's all I had. And it was the worst feeling. I felt like helpless, like there's nothing I could do. I felt self-conscious because everybody else had their shirt and I didn't, and I was like half naked. It just felt like the worst feeling, right? So why do I bring this up? Well, fast forward to present day, where to protect my own mental health, so to speak, from the possibility of loss of belongings, I often tell myself that my car, for example, is something that I use. It's not something that I own it in the sense of, but ownership is a construct, right? Ownership makes sense only in a community of people, right? If I'm the only person on the planet, can ownership even exist anymore? I don't know. So, so yes, the car is in my name, but it's something that I just use. The car will one day not be a car anymore. I mean, 100 years from now, right? Whereas it's going to be scrap parts, or it's going to, right? It's there's something impermanent about it, and that's the key here is making peace, not just making peace, but coming to realize the impermanence of things. That a lot of the things we use, this coffee cup, for instance, yeah, it's a cup and I'm using it, and if I were to drop it and if it broke, I could be upset and I could say, oh, my coffee cup broke and whatnot. But it kind of disrespects reality in a way, the reality of everything being impermanent. How about this? As much bigger example in terms of consequence, the wildfires in Los Angeles that just consumed the homes, the houses of many, many people. Horribly tragic, and it's an awful experience to lose one's home. Well, in that situation, would it help if we said something like, my home or my house it's something that I use. It's not something I am. It's not something that I have, so to speak. Not something I possess or own in a metaphysical sense. It's just something that I use. And on the scale of things, a house is a pretty significant thing to lose. But even more significant, one could argue, is losing a loved one or friend, family member, etc. That is probably going to need to be a different video because something kind of unique about that. But then at the very top is the ultimate impermanence, which is our own consciousness, which at some point will come to an end. And I'll make one more point in regards to language and the word lose. I was curious about the etymology of lose and the definition, so I looked it up. You're going to get 5 different variations. And I'm always suspicious of words that have so many definitions because then it really depends on the context. That really determines the meaning of the word in that specific situation. Let me give you an example. So lose, first definition, is to be deprived of or cease to have or retain something. Like I've lost my appetite, right? Number 2, become unable to find something or someone. I've lost the car keys. Number 3, to fail to win, as in a game or a contest. Now, there's a problem right there because when you lose a game, you're defeated. And defeated can be a whole vibration, it can be a whole attitude. But when you lose your t-shirt, you weren't really defeated in the sense of you misplaced it or it was taken or you no longer possess, right? So then if you're an 8-year-old and someone comes to you and says, oh, what happened? You lost your t-shirt, and that's the word that is used. I would be on the lookout for that 8-year-old's emotional demeanor to take on a defeated demeanor. And maybe it sounds like a little bit of a stretch, but I'm always on the lookout for ways in which our mind can interpret, or I should say misinterpret, a situation as unfavorable, right? Because then that leads to suffering, and if the suffering could be avoided, if it's not necessary suffering, I'm out to reduce that. I mean, think about the situation where you misplace something like your car keys or a book or whatever, and you're trying to find it, and you know it's within your house or somewhere because you know it wouldn't have left. Sometimes when this happens, we get very worked up emotionally. And so the question there is, what is the source of that emotion, right? Is it really about you want to locate the item? I think more of the suffering comes from the interpretation or the story of, well, I shouldn't have misplaced it, or I should remember where I put it. I should have found it by now. I'm wasting so much time. Things like that. And what I'm getting at is the story plays a role, right? Stories can help us or hurt us. Let's go back to the situation of the houses, right, in Los Angeles, which I know it's such a crappy situation. Like, I don't wish it upon anybody. Just as a thought experiment, suppose 1,000 people lose their homes. Just assume everybody's got the same economic conditions, the value of the home is the same, their savings are the same, etc. Wouldn't you think that of those 1,000 people, some of them will be more emotionally distraught about the loss of the home than others? And what accounts for that? Go into nature and suppose that there was a bird, built a bird nest, and a tornado came through and the nest got destroyed. And what do you think is going to happen? The bird's going to start rebuilding a new nest, right? But the thing there is that the bird, because of its limited brain, doesn't have the capability of coming up with a story. A story such as, oh, how come this happened to me? I'm a good person. Why do bad things happen to good people? Or, oh, I really should have built the nest in a better place. I mean, had I known there was a tornado, I would have built it in a different tree. I should have built it lower in the tree, blah, blah, blah. Why didn't I think of that? These are stories that then cause unnecessary suffering. And you can imagine that the bird goes about rebuilding the nest the next day with no suffering whatsoever, just doing what it's supposed to do. So if I relate this back to my t-shirt example, being 8 years old, sitting on the bus with no shirt and holding a towel, right? A lot of my suffering that day was this story. I'm the only one on this bus with no shirt. How ashamed. I feel naked in front of everybody else has their shirt. Why me? Sort of like these kinds of thoughts, right? And if someone had been there to help me orient my mind back to facts and out of stories, had the shirt, couldn't find it, you don't know where it is, but you're going to get home safe. That could help control the story making. So to wrap up this video, I don't want it to sound like I'm being super negative where, oh, because everything's impermanent, we should be ready to lose like everything, all our loved ones, all of our possessions, blah, blah, blah. It's more of like a protection. And I think a positive way to look at it is that imagine as we do life, experience life, if we actually acknowledge the impermanence of everything around us, that everything, the clothes that we're wearing could end up somewhere else one day, and that's okay. that the home that we occupy will one day be occupied perhaps by someone else, or it could be demolished to the ground. We don't know. But I think if we start from that vantage point, we actually have a more accurate view of reality. And I think when change happens, maybe we won't be so reactive. We will perhaps adapt to it because, after all, change is going to happen. So that's all for my video today. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe, share it with friends. Until next time, think deeply and put your existence first.